Most RAG systems do not fail because retrieval is bad. They fail because the model is handed the right facts in the wrong shape.
Exactly. That handoff is context assembly. It is the step where you take retrieved material, conversation state, instructions, metadata, and constraints. Then decide what actually goes into the model prompt, and in what order.
So, not retrieval, not generation, but the wiring between them.
Yes. And that wiring decides whether the model sees a coherent case or a pile of fragments. Programmers obsess over search quality, then lose the answer in assembly.
Give me the concrete version. What does context assembly mean in practice, not in architecture diagrams?
In practice, it means choosing which evidence to include, trimming noise, grouping related facts, preserving source boundaries, adding the user question, maybe adding prior turns, and arranging all of that so the model can reason over it without getting distracted or confused.
So, two systems can retrieve the same documents and still produce wildly different answers.
All the time. Imagine support docs for a payment API. Retrieval finds the rate limit page, the retry policy, and an outdated migration note. One assembler puts the outdated note first and strips version dates. Another groups by version and highlights current policy. Same corpus, different answer, different risk.
That is a power shift. It means assembly is where truth gets amplified or quietly sabotaged.
Right. Context assembly is really about controlling the model's attention. Language models do not just read facts. They react to placement, wording, recency, conflicts, and how much room each piece gets.
Let's talk stakes. Why should someone building RAG care beyond answer quality?
Because assembly affects trust, latency, cost, and evaluation. If you stuff everything in, cost goes up, and the model may miss the key point. If you overcompress, you lose qualifiers. If you mix sources carelessly, citations become meaningless, and audits get ugly.
And this is where teams fool themselves with evals, right?
Yes. A system can score well on retrieval recall and still fail user-facing evals because the final prompt buries the best evidence, drops a crucial exception, or blends contradictory snippets into something that sounds smooth but is false.
Give me an evaluation example.
Say you evaluate a benefits assistant. The retriever correctly finds the parental leave policy and an exceptions page for contractors, but assembly merges them into a summary without preserving who each rule applies to. The model answers confidently that all employees get 12 weeks. Your retrieval metric looks great. Your answer accuracy is wrong, and your compliance team now has a problem.
So the failure is not absence of evidence, it is loss of structure.
Exactly. Good context assembly preserves the distinctions that matter for reasoning: time, scope, authority, audience, and confidence. Bad assembly flattens those distinctions and invites hallucination with receipts.
That phrase is brutal, but accurate. How do you think about the main jobs of assembly?
3 jobs. First, selection. What deserves token budget? Second, organization. What comes first? What stays grouped? What gets separated? Third, framing. What instructions tell the model how to use the evidence, especially when sources disagree or the answer should stay uncertain?
I like that because it moves the conversation from search to editorial judgment.
That is the right mindset. You are not dumping text into a window. You are editing a case file for a very fast, very literal junior analyst with a huge memory and uneven judgment.
Let's do one more practical scenario, something people can picture building this week.
Take an internal engineering assistant answering, "Why did Service X start timing out after Tuesday's deploy?" Retrieval might return deploy notes, incident chat, dashboard annotations, and a runbook. Good assembly orders them by timeline, labels each source, surfaces the deploy diff and the error spike together, and keeps speculation from chat separate from confirmed evidence. Bad assembly just concatenates the top hits. The model then treats a random Slack guess like root cause.
And the winner is not the team with more documents. It is the team that can stage evidence so the model can think.
Yes, and that changes product strategy. If your assembly is strong, smaller models can answer better. Citations get cleaner, and eval failures become diagnosable. If assembly is weak, you end up buying larger models to compensate for a prompt you built badly.
That is a sharp point. People blame the model when the brief was incompetent.
Exactly. Context assembly is where you decide whether the model gets signal, conflict, ambiguity, and priority in a usable form. It is the difference between evidence-based answering and expensive improv.
So if someone says, our RAG has decent retrieval but the answers still feel unreliable, your first suspicion is assembly.
Immediately, look at what was included, what was excluded, what was merged, what lost its labels, what got placed near the end, and where the prompt asked the model to overstate confidence.
Which means context assembly is not a cleanup step. It is where the final answer is basically negotiated.
Exactly. Retrieval finds candidates. Generation writes the sentence. Context assembly decides what reality the model is allowed to see.